Alright, it is now time for raising funds for World Domination, day number 266. So, for today's update, once again, there are no updates today. No response or updates with the anticipated appeal. There's still 4 sponsored block types in the Shopify Store. And once again, I continued work on the next long-form video. Did some voice recording today. So as usual, we will continue with work on the terminal block mining game. Yesterday I made some progress on the border for buttons. So the current development arc of the video game is making a general purpose input menu that'll be used for a number of things, but specifically for capturing input for connection information that will facilitate multiplayer connections. Alright, so there's the current UI. So submit doesn't do anything yet. And I think what I may do for the submit button So I think I'll make it use the single border version. That's good. It works also in the ASCII view. doesn't match any documents. Google sucks now. It doesn't work. Yeah, that's literally what it's called. And then I Google for it. But Google's not smart enough anymore. In the age of advanced AI, you can't even Google for a Unicode character. Use Claude Code. I will eventually. I need to like set it up and research it and stuff. That doesn't work. Can you give me 1 week for free? I plan to. It's high on my next priority list after the next. I don't have any time to try it out. But I plan to, after I finish the next video, that's going to be the next thing, is I'll actually get my feet wet with. What has kept me from doing it now is all the plugins are garbage and don't actually seem to work. But I think now they're actually getting good enough that you can actually use these AI coding tools. I can't paste Unicode characters. Maybe there are no HTML documents mentioning the character. I mean, there's this. Where is it here? Yeah. That's like literally the name of it. The only difference was I capitalized it and put underscores. I think old Google would have found that, and it was released in 1992 or 1993. So. Robert, who are you using for internet in Kitchener? I forget exactly. It's one of those. It's a downstream. It ends up being like, it all ends up being like Rogers or something. I think I pay I think it's like $80 a month or something. But it's decent internet. I never had an issue with it. Third party, yeah, it's one of those like syndicated ones or something. Yeah, it might be something like that. I forget the exact name of it. They lowered my bill once, and then they just raised it again. Maybe the page is not in the spider. I guess not. If it's not about moving out of Canada, to Europe, never work. Honestly, Canada, the way Europe is right now, Europe seems like a worse version of Canada at the moment. I mean, it depends where, but I don't know. There are probably better places to be, but it's not. I mean, it requires a lot of money to move, and yet, I don't know. It always strikes me so weird how everyone is so casually just move to another country. You can't just move to another country on a whim. It's a lot of work. depression follows you wherever you go. I was thinking more about just like the enormous amount of work it takes to like reestablish yourself. Like just the day to day. Like let's say I go to Europe or something like that. Like today I made some food, but I did that with I bought a set of nice pots. Like right after I graduated, I either have to like sell that pot set here, which was like, it was $300. It was a very good pot set 10 years ago. I can sell it here, then buy a new set in Europe. And the regular price for that pot set was like $1,000 now. Or no, it was $1,000 regular price years ago for like a good set of cooking pots. And so now it's probably like $2,000. Or I could have it shipped, but then I gotta like, it probably has to go through customs and stuff, and it probably cost, like if I ship regular boxes, it probably costs almost as much as it would to rebuy. You gotta do import customs and stuff. Maybe if you send stuff in bulk. So like this is all the analysis you have to do for, you know, just moving your stuff. Then of course, I don't know a single person in Europe, so now, you know, what if it's like a family emergency or something? I have to like get plane tickets from Europe and fly all the way back here. And the question is, where do I go in Europe? Germany seems like it's really in for a bleak future economically, with their they built up this massive dependence on cheap Russian gas, and so their economy is kind of tanking. And I think I saw a headline today that, well, they've been talking more and more about things like conscription and stuff, and a lot of the political situation over there. I would like to stay away from that. So yeah, those are some of the bigger considerations. And that, I mean, as bleak as things are here, maybe things could make a turn for the better if like things can calm down. If we can get some like better political direction, and then maybe some trade agreements or something, maybe in a few years things can turn around. $126. man, there's a lot of these. Okay, I want that one. Bless you. Thank you. Catching up from the beginning. 1.75x. Nice. Because it didn't miss too much. This is hasn't been too eventful. Up and right. 2-5. 1-4. Up and left. 2-5, 1-8. Going to be an electrician because IT is useless nowadays, says John McAfee. Yeah, I've questioned if maybe that makes sense. It's I don't know, it's a difficult judgment call because if you ask like what has the most like clearly software has like the maximum utility. Like if you want to do the most, if you want to contribute the most amount of value to society, theoretically speaking, a piece of software would be able to do that more than like, moving around atoms. But then again, I don't know, there's just so many problems with the industry. And then you throw AI on top of that. With it's clear to me that there really are definitely performance gains with AI coding. But I also don't even know. It really depends how things settle out in the next 4 or 5 years. Because at least from what I've seen so far, like when I try to use these coding AI tools, they like for certain cases, like if you ask it to generate like merge sort with a slight variation, it's pretty amazing. But then when you ask it to do like real tasks, it just doesn't. It doesn't know how to do it, and so it's clear that like in those cases, coding still is necessary. California, you can make around $150K a year after 5 or so years of experience. Yeah, there's also, I mean, the reason I chose to start a business because of the like the instability of the industry, and also like limited opportunity for growth, and also that kind of lack of control of, like lots of people will say, oh, just go work at Amazon for a couple of years and then like bank a ton of money, but it's not necessarily up to you. Back when I was doing it, 2014 or 2013 was my last internship. I could have gone there 2014 when I graduated. I probably could have. I think it was pretty stable then, but then it was probably like, coming up to 2019, that's when I kind of started to get unstable a bit. And then they started printing money and COVID. And then there was an undersupply. But now it's just like if I got a job at one of those companies, you have no idea if you're going to get laid off in 6 months or something. And it takes so long to get the job in the first place. I mean, I've seen, there's so many like horror stories from, I mean, this doesn't happen to everyone, but if it happens to you, it's like mentally, physically, and emotionally draining. If you like spend 6 months getting a job, then you get a job, and you get laid off in like 2 months, and then you spend another 6 months getting a job, and then you get laid off from that one. Even if it's not your fault, it's just the economy's crap. There's people going through that situation. I don't know, maybe after a few years things will settle down. Whole industry is just oversaturated. You're widely viewed as expendable. Yeah. What also frustrates me too is, like, to anyone who knows how to build software, clearly there's an advantage. Like, there are people who are definitely better engineers and who contribute more value to the company. But I find it's very demotivating. It's very demotivating when the leadership is incapable of recognizing people who are and are not talented. Because they like, companies will say that there's a shortage of talent, but on the same hand, they also hire like there's a few cases of these guys in like India who don't even have a legal right. It is not all the time, but they can sometimes work at like 10 different companies, and then like nobody notices, and they're just using like ChatGPT to send in like the bare minimum. And especially during COVID with remote work, there were some people who had like 3 or 4 full-time jobs pulling in like $1 million a year. Especially from Unix sysadmin stuff. Anything else related to sysadmin. It's a decent 10 years back from. It was a decent 10 years back. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's a low status position. Like, it's I mean, some people don't like doctors, but at least if you become like a doctor, there's like at least some societal recognition too of like, being accomplished. But if you spend your entire life learning to code, people would be like, oh, you're some antisocial nerd. Completely agree. Canada's generally not worse than Europe right now. Leaving aside, and moving countries is kind of a big deal. It is. I think like it makes more sense earlier on in your career, but everyone who talks about that, like for anyone who's suggesting that, like, what about your family, or like any social contacts? Like, if you have no social contacts at all, which is why it makes more sense if you're younger. But like, especially if you go to Europe or something, the cost of traveling, if you have to come back, is going to be prohibitively expensive. Okay, this was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is surprisingly a very tedious task. Zero, 1, 2, 3. Let's see what that does. That looks pretty good. Okay, there's two more at the bottom two corners. So just under vertical. Also got to consider AI's impact. There's still jobs out there, but just high level or specialized. Also seen people brand themselves as AI vibe engineers. Yeah, I think it's also like the percentage of the economy that's turning over is like it's always a certain percentage of the economy that's in flux. But even today, there's like the number of humans in the population that can even take advantage of AI or like know about it or what it can do is not even that significant yet. So there's still people stuck in the old way of doing things. I mean, I think increasingly we're probably like with the whole like K-shaped economy, we're gonna have like a poor people economy where like you can still get work doing like poor people work for people who can't afford AI or computers or people who hate computers. And it's like the forcing function that's gonna, force it. Like AI is more efficient at doing certain things, but I think this is going to be a lot of the economy is going to be very stubborn for a lot longer than many people predict. And it's probably going to take longer than the next economic cycle. Okay, that completes the light single border. So that'll give me a nice looking button for my inputs. We'll be stuck in the middle, especially as a dev. I have reservations to leverage AI versus traditional dev approach. Yeah, it's hard to figure out the difference between what's hype and what's not. I mean, honestly, there's a huge financial incentive for companies to kind of gas up how much AI is great, and I've become like a bit even more suspicious. I wonder if like some of the especially online recommendations promoting AI are actually just AI bots. Like if you had an AI company, you would be financially incentivized, and it would be very inexpensive to just make like a bot and just post a bunch of Hacker News articles being like, wow, I'm so blown away by this AI. It was amazing. And it did this task for me. And I saw there was a new CTV News thing about like jobs, the fastest growing job sectors in Canada, and one was like forklift operator, and I don't know, food preparation or something like that. So like, we keep saying like, oh, there's gonna be no jobs and stuff, but where's all the robots that make all the food for us and build our housing? Like people still can't afford housing, can't afford food. There's a disconnect somewhere. Look at that. Isn't that just the greatest terminal button? It looks so good. let's see. So the remaining things to do are fix the toggling, the movement between the selected inputs. Huge step in the right direction for humanity. What is specifically? Absence of hunger. Well, I don't know if we can maintain absence of hunger, but right now we got increasing hunger because people can't afford groceries. It's a noble goal. Trying to achieve an absence of hunger is a noble goal, but we're not there. All we just have is AI bots that spam things and ChatGPT slop everywhere. We still have hunger. There are food stamps in soup kitchens. Yeah, and they're seeing record usage now because nobody can afford anything. All right, so now each input element gets a say in whether it can capture the focus. Pirate Goose Catch says, yo, how's it going? Shoes Key says, evening. How's it going? Going well. Excellent. Hope you're well. Yeah, I'm pretty good. It's I don't know. It's an uneventful time of year. It's like the cold, wintry stasis, where the days are short. But grinding away. I did some recording for the next video. I don't know. It feels like I'm not accomplishing as much every day, but still grinding away at things. Recently I've been listening to the author of Redis. He's all in on generative AI. Very optimistic. Yeah, it's like I've said a few times, it's definitely on my high on my to-do list for next piece of content. I guess the last couple of years has been, with this rent eviction situation, it's been more distracting than I would have anticipated. But that seems to be kind of winding down. Although I still, well, I don't know. I may have to like prepare a response to the divisional court for their appeal. But yeah, it sounds like the consensus is I need Claude Code is the one that everyone uses. It'll be interesting to do. It'll be kind of fun to use to go from like manually coding every night to actually seriously trying out the generative stuff. That'll make for some interesting new content. Is it evening for you? It is currently 10:52 here. Are you optimistic about the housing situation? It depends what you mean by optimistic. So we won on the rent eviction case. There was something like 30 people still here. They put out like I think 66 eviction notices, 61 or 60 something, and around 30 people were still fighting it at the end. I think maybe even a couple of them might have dropped off, but still they were on the case docket. So we won, but the landlord almost immediately filed an appeal. So now they want to escalate it to divisional court. But the thing is, the landlord, we only had to win on one of 3 points, and we won on all 3 of them. So I think the landlord's case is pretty weak. Using Cloud Code right now. It's working overtime at the moment. Yeah, the initial, I've been using a lot of AI for image generation, and it used to be, like, it used to just take your prompt and use that, and if you found like more clever prompts. But what I've noticed, and I assume it's probably the same for coding now, it's doing this like, I don't know what they call, like chain of thought reasoning or something. So it'll like, you ask it something, and then it used to just predict from that, but now it seems to like, it'll ask itself questions and it'll check stuff, and it kind of goes through back and forth. So that seems to make the queries a lot longer, but the results it seems to be like way more like a detailed and articulate, like it actually does some work for you. There's a few things where I've asked it to. I find it's actually quite good. I've been using ChatGPT a lot for creating graphics. So like, there are times when I'd like to create a graphic. Like I used to just do it in GIMP. I create like a transparent PNG that's like has a title. It's, it just has some text on it. It's like it's nothing fancy, but I just want to have a random piece of text with some transparency or like a little icon or something that I can animate into a video. And I find ChatGPT is very good for that, where I can ask it, I can say, give me a transparent PNG image of a landscape orientation thing that says, Robert Elder style the text in this way, and it'll go and do it. And if you ask like for more specific stuff, like style the text with brick, like a brick pattern or something, it'll go and like find some tool for creating those patterns. And I'll see it come back sometimes where it's like writing code. And there's a handful of times when I'll get back something and it's like, it's a total piece of garbage. Like it just completely cropped it wrong, and it's like the text is cut off and the result is just useless. But then I just copy and paste the prompt and ask it again. And then, I'd say like 90% of the time it gives something that's passable. And then I can just, I just ask the same question 10 times and then take the best result. What is the temperature? The temperature is 1. Thank you for asking. I'm converting the 3JS editor to TypeScript. Nice. You're doing the whole thing in one query? They all babble to themselves for a bit before starting to code. Yeah. And I found a lot of times, like they're you can also see how censored they are. A lot of times, I don't know if you get that as much with coding, but it's like, the user asked me to generate an image of this, making sure that this type of thing could be dangerous. So I better be careful to generate the safe version of this thing. And then sometimes, like if I ask for something, it's like not even, like if you could think of some bad association with it, it's like, oh no, I can't generate that image. That could be bad. Basically turning away. Keep hitting the limit. Are you asking it to convert the entire code base into TypeScript in like one query? I would assume it's not like from my experiences with, mostly with the image generation stuff, it seems like the more narrow, converting the JS code base to TypeScript. I wonder if it'll, have you done other code base conversions? And does it actually work? Because I find sometimes if you do stuff like that, it's not uncommon. You'll try it out and then it just completely doesn't work. But I don't know, it's getting to the point where it might be smart enough now where you could ask it to do that conversion, and then it'll fail, and then you can just, however it fails, you can just describe it and then loop that back in. Or you could even almost automate that process. Generating images that have specific hard constraints is hit and miss. For some things, they will just generate something different no matter what. Not even talking about controversial topics. Yeah, I've needed for AI image generation used to be very, very bad with text. It was so bad that what I used to do sometimes for things was I would ask it to generate an image with a blank space, and then I would just add the text manually. But in the recent versions, it seems to be a lot better. Although it still does, it seems to do. It does seem like it does seem. Testing. Yeah, in the most recent iterations of it, it does seem like like you can ask it to say, generate an artistic poster with this big long piece of text, and it'll actually do it, but it still will mess up like one or two numbers or something. So you have to be careful and put like. I've had what it seems to do sometimes is it seems like it has an error in like estimating the width of text, and then when it tries to finish a word, it'll realize it doesn't have enough space, and so it'll just like merge together letters. Do you think it would be suicidal to take mechanics as an elective? Final is 80%. I think thinking about getting into robotics. Could take an easier physics 101 course. There's no calc in that. I think I remember you were at Waterloo. I would say it depends on. So physics, I love physics. Physics is interesting, but personally, I was very bad at it. I think I got that was one of my lowest marks, was my physics course. I would say it depends on how good you are at physics. So you could go by like relative to your other grades, what kind of mark do you get in like mechanics courses or physics courses. I don't know exactly what you'll be doing in mechanics, but like if you're very good at like doing those, electrostatics, calculate like a charge of 10 coulombs is at this radius, and then it's moving parallel to this. If you're good at those calculations and you do them correctly, and you can get through them, because on one hand you want to learn useful stuff in your getting your degree, but you also want to pass, so you have to assess your capacity to get through it. I think probably mechanics stuff in the real world, that's probably where a lot of the investment will go in the future, is back into the world of atoms, because we've neglected that a lot for a while. But then again, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like I know companies like Boston Dynamics did, they did robotics. And like the stuff they produced was very, very good. But Google, I think, sold the company because, I don't know, they had these amazing robots, but they weren't able to like figure out what to do with it. Or maybe they had some ulterior motive. They wanted to like get access to the data or something. And it's possible that robotics could end up being like a monopoly company, where like one company with all the resources will basically make the robotics that everyone uses, and then everyone else will be making like this crappy, they'll be using crappy servos from China that they bought off eBay that are like have really bad performance, and that no one will ever use their stuff. Been converting a lot of stuff. It's working for the most part. The Chrome MCP server also helps debug the browser. Once again, I keep hitting the limits. Either 5-hour limits. Yeah, I've actually I have a paid ChatGPT thing, and I hit the limits with the image generation stuff now and then. Better off getting to generate code or parts that you can confirm are working. Yeah, I would assume I've seen very good results. Like if you narrow the scope and make the output, especially if you make it quantifiable, because it's non-deterministic. So, like if you were to just ask it, like if you had a set of unit tests, I could imagine you could even ask it a difficult task, say like generate a piece of code that that solves this problem, and then just ask the AI like 20 times, just do it in a loop, just keep asking it over and over again to do it, be like, nope, that's wrong, and eventually, as like an annealing process, it'll like stumble upon the right answer. Haven't done physics in high school. IDK if I'm good at physics. Also trying to prep myself for the bubble, quantum computing. Next bubble. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that'll. I don't know if quantum computing will like get out to consumers in that big of a way in the future. I think quantum computing is probably like most likely the quantum computing stuff is probably more in the range of like if you learn about semiconductor fab stuff, like the chemical engineering and like and optics. Actually, I think optics is probably an underappreciated thing to do. Because optics, there's a lot of there's a surprising number of things that you have to do in optics to do like the cutting edge lithography. And I think quantum computing, most of the field of quantum computing, it seems to be people like physics people doing like theoretical stuff, saying like theoretically you could make this and that. But I think there's an oversupply of those people and an undersupply of people who know how to actually build all this stuff, who know like, okay, you need to take this like thin layer of here's how you can build a crystal that does this, and here's how you manufacture the lens for the optical system. Like, I mean, perfect example is the that new like tin the like what was it, ultra high ultra UV photolithography, where you have to like some tin molecule and you need some very specific wavelength of light, and they had like do a contract with the world experts in like of like welding or something to manufacture the laser that would do this very precise wavelength of light, like all that kind of stuff. I think there's not enough of those people, and there's way too many people who just want to sit in air-conditioned offices and like fantasize about new particles in the standard model. We barely scratched the surface with robotics yet. It's true. Yeah, I think most of the venture capital money, all the investment money, has gone into software. And I guess we may have actually, with this whole AI wave, we may have reached the wall on where more investment in that stuff will yield better results. So we may see more money go into hardware stuff. Could be that robotics could be the next form of platform. Everyone tries to make a platform. Maybe, but it's harder to iterate in hardware though, which is I guess why everyone went into software. The yields are in the short term are faster, but we may have mined all of the optimizations out of it. Google failed to monetize the vast majority of their endeavors. That one was just a bit too much money with no return. Yeah, it's also like when these big companies buy stuff too, I think there can also be like ulterior motives. Like they're so big, they have to think in like they might have just bought it to prevent someone else from buying it, and then that other competitor, business plans change. They're like, oh, we don't need this anymore. or maybe it's just to buy it to like get access to their data, so they can buy it, and then they get CEO of Google comes into the office and is like, hey, give me all your data on like, does the technology work? Who are your customers? What's the max performance of this thing? And then they get the data and they're like, huh, thanks for that. And then they sell it. It's really great at creating very generic implementations of algorithms. Great for learning those algorithms too. Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of excited to play around with the AI stuff once I get there. Theoretically, any programmer could make a game, theory optimal poker botting program, and make enough money to live on. Specifically Ontario, theoretically any programmer could make a game, theory optimal poker botting program. Well, if any programmer could do it, then I would assume you'd see more of them. The thing is, those I've seen lots of people propose to me like make some algorithm to like cheat a poker bot, but that's those things are all like they have to deal with people, cheaters and stuff on a regular basis. So I would imagine it's trying to cheat the casino. I don't think it's a very good business model. Like even if you win, they'll just sue you or something, or they'll find some way to. They've been in the game and have more resources than you do. All right, so there's a couple more things to do. I guess next stream I'll work on the cycling through the inputs. I'll make a better function. I may be able to rename this like move input focus or something. Your Meta just laid off 1,500 engineers from their VR division. They invested heavily on that a few years ago. Who knows how the market will look next month, let alone next year. Yeah, I think some of these things come down to, like at that scale, these companies have to think about, they just ask like one question, what is going to achieve the highest growth rate? Is it like VR? Is it vehicles? Is it AI? Is it, video? Is it whatever? And I think they just like, they dump a huge amount of money into all these things, and then they just see like, what's the return? How much money comes in? What's the customer lifetime value? And then they just do a calculation, and then the result of that calculation is where they're going to put all their money. And I guess maybe that's AI. You'd have to look into where they're growing. But I guess it could be, I don't know, it may also be cyclical. I think a lot of things are, the economy is contracting overall. I've gotten to implement Markov chains, wave function collapse, genetic algorithms, and gradient descent. Interesting. Like tax fraud, sub 50K and you're fine. Not something that I think about. Might dive headfirst into mechanics. If I die, pay for my funeral. You can just grind through it. I find if you start struggling, one thing I'd recommend is if the professor has office hours, come to the professor's office hours. I don't know about Waterloo, but when I was at Conestoga, we would have Marx meetings, and if there was some students that were like, Like if you completely fail, then you're going to fail. But if you're like borderline, like usually everything gets curved. And if you get like I forget what the pass mark was, but like if your actual numerical grade is like 49 or something, and you go to the marks meeting, and the prof like is like, oh, okay, this student, they're struggling, but their marks are okay. They'll be like, just round it up to like 51 or something. Or I think 51 or 50 or 55 is the pass. I can't remember. All right, with that, I guess we'll call it a stream, and we'll be back tomorrow night for day 267. All right, have a good night, guys.